of flat. Oh look, I'm bleeding, just kidding. It's paint. Okay, so there's a lot of dark bluish purple up here, and then there's a beautiful mid-tone, and then there's a light one. I'm gonna start with the light and maybe paint around it. So I'm just using a little bit of this blue. Ooh, I got some green on my brush. Actually, it looks kind of nice, doesn't it? Really watering that down right there. And then maybe just a smidge. This blue right here. Really light. And that's okay. It's light. So I could actually stop it right there and it'll be an overcast, like almost no cloud at all. It's like a wisp. Yeah. But the shadows wouldn't make sense if I did that. So let's go ahead and add in. I'm gonna put an angle on this. Ha. Not quite enough blue in that purple. It's a very red purple. So you can always adjust it as long as it's wet.
I bought a purple called Imperial Purple.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And that's got a lot of blue.
I've never really used that one, but I've seen it on the Daniel Smith Instagram. It's really nice.
I just bought it because I like the name and I needed purple.
Let's see.
That one's the opposite. You know, you got to add a little red to it or it's too blue.
So there's a lot of pink in some of these clouds. Really water that down. Just a little bit does a lot. The closer it gets to the horizon, it's a little bit pushed back. Ah! Too much. So like big cloud, medium cloud, and then maybe a hint or two of some really far away clouds. So you want some sky poking through there. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more blue right here. I have to remember this isn't Canson, or it's not Canson and it's not Arches paper. Clouds always turn out better on Arches. So it's not quite the same way that I was hoping it would turn out. But
what kind of paper is that?
this is
Stonehenge?
Stonehenge. Thank you. So one thing you can do also. Probably shouldn't have done that right here, but that's okay. So normally I would let that sit and just dry, but it's a demo, so I'm going to continue. Let's see. It's probably best to start with this section back here. Now all this, the sun's hitting it, but then it's also very light in comparison because most of the shadows are up here. So these are in sunlight, but it's also further away, so it's less saturated. Hello. So get the brush size according to whatever size thing you're painting. So right here, it's very small details. Let's see. So I'm kind of mixing that over on the side a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a little white in between. For those sections I painted.
And you're using the turquoise?
This is the turquoise and the ultramarine blue mixed together, but then there's also, it's watered down a little bit. There's a tiny bit of pink right here. And I'm having that right here on the edge. And it's not really showing up here, but I'm gonna use my artistic license and show that there's a little bit of mountain back there. And then it's not really going across all the way, so I'll leave it that. There's a darker turquoise right here, but since it's further away, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue to it. Hello! I'm demoing if you want to watch. Okay, so I'm gonna let that go, let that dry right there. I'm going to attack the lights right here. So there's a light here, there's two lights here, a light, a light, a light, and it's mostly the orange color, so really watered down orange. So I'm just gonna take this orange right here on the side. It's already watered down. And I'm gonna put it in. See what happens. A little bit of orange here. And if it doesn't quite match the picture, it's okay because you're kind of just doing whatever you want. The idea is just to get the shapes in. So I have a triangle, a square, a very long rectangle, and almost a triangle shape right here. Take a little bit more of the orange.
So it looks, from here, it looks a little pink too.
Yeah, I added a little bit of pink right here.
Like this kind of pulls this in, kind of.
Yeah. And then there's a big light shape here. Reload your brush when you need more paint. There's a little bit here and a little bit there. And then you can also add some of the pinks in there. Be careful with the crimson. It's a very powerful color, so you want to be sparing with that. So one of the things that happens when the sun's hitting a mountainside, the top part will be more yellow, and then it'll go to orange, and then to crimson, and then to purple. And then there'll be like a harsh line between, like the purple will be really small. You can kind of see it on that mountain, like the top of the closer mountain. That's more yellow, and then it goes to an orange, and then to like a purpley red, or a red and purpley color. So that's what happens on mountainsides because it's so big. You actually can also see the same effect on sunspots, like, you know, when the trees are right here, the sun's going through it. And on the ground, say that it's on cement or something, you'll be able to see a little ring of those same colors, but like just squished. So it's light, and then like this tiny little rainbow effect on the edges, and then the shadow. So a lot of artists will kind of incorporate that into their paintings for shadows, and it just adds a little bit of something extra. So since I was doing all the light colors, I'm gonna do some of the light colors over here. Might get a different brush. Oh no, that's all blue. Whoops. So I'm gonna pretend there's a little bit of snow on here. Actually, I should have done the blue first, whoops. Oh well. Or maybe I won't, I don't know, we'll see. really washed out up at the top, but then the closer it gets down, and I'm not worrying about every single detail of this rock. The whole point I'm trying to get across is the colors. And then you can actually add in shadows to help get those details back. So this is just the first pass as far as getting these colors down. I'm gonna really saturate it on this one right here. This is where I want people's attention to go. Right there. And here's that darker orange I'm using in place of red. That's a nice sound effect. So one of the things I just did is I put down a wash of the burnt orange, and now I'm just dropping in at the tops of it some of that cad orange, and then it's adding a nice effect in there. And I can also do the same thing in reverse for some of the reds. So if I want it to transition to more of a red color, I'll touch the edge of this burnt orange, and it'll turn into a red color. Maybe add a little bit of orange in there. Go back to the red. And thankfully, all of these grains, they are darker than the darkest soil, the darkest rock. So all of these greens you can put on top of any of these oranges and reds, and it will come out just fine. So don't worry about your greens until the last step, because it's the darkest dark, okay? And if you leave some of these white spots here, a lot of people like that. It's like adds character to a watercolor, and it just shows that you're trying to be very free with your strokes. So now I'm getting into purples. Just kind of changing it down a little bit. So this whole section here is in shadow. It's not completely purple here. Here it's purple, up here it's more of like a strange green color. So I'm gonna grab some of those and have it be muddy with a little bit of that purple. So it'd be a muddy purpley green. I'm gonna bring that down. And then it's gonna touch. And there you go. So the top of that's gonna be more of a green color. And then I'll change it over. Look at the size of my brush. I'm just going willy-nilly here. Yeah. And then there's little bits of, I'm just adding in some ideas of the rock face. I'm not trying to get every single detail. I'm going for the idea of it. Put less pressure on yourself, and if it screws up, then I'm like, okay, well, you know, I just kind of did it for fun. So now you get the light versus dark. Remember me teaching you about the rocks before? Same thing for a giant mountain cliff face. Light and dark. That's also why the Four Peaks is so hard, because it's always in direct sunlight or it's behind, it's backlit. That's why the Four Peaks are so hard.
It's so pretty. I like it when there's snow on Four Peaks.
Oh yeah, me too. See that tapping motion? See all these plants and stuff up here? The flat, I'm just going horizontal and using the tips of the brush, so it's not this, it's this. Kind of letting that do an effect. You can also scrape it across and I'll get something similar. So if I wanted to add some of these greens, you know, muddy it down a little bit. It's not a perfect green. I can go across like that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's nice.
So then you have, trees and stuff on the top of that. So now you have almost the full rainbow. I think that's why people love like fall colors, because it's the whole rainbow, and then there's Sedona, which has all those gorgeous colors in there. Really makes it fun to paint. And this is mostly just that burnt orange color here. Not too much of the cad yellow. I'll add a little bit of highlights here and there for this close-up rock, just so your camera can see. And then this is all in color. And it's okay to add a couple random rocks. It doesn't have to be exactly like the photo. And I'm putting the crimson down at the bottom of these rocks just to add some interest. This one's almost all red, actually. And then I'm gonna add some random scribbles. I can put the trees and stuff on top of this. It's all in shadow, so, but I want some of this beautiful red to poke through. There's some right over here too. So this whole side of the mountain's all done, pretty much. Like if I want to, I can add more details, but then you get the basic idea right here. I guess I don't need to have it tilted anymore. Now all this for this background mountain, you want your details to be noticeable up in the front. So back here, I'm actually gonna simplify this even more, and I'm just gonna have these be shadows. So they're gonna be a very muted purple. I'm getting a little bit closer because
You want a
they're
chair?
far away.
Susie, you want a
No,
chair?
I'm fine. Thank you. So I'm kind of muddying this purple a little bit. Added a little bit of orange to it. If I want more color, I can always add it. And I can always change over to a different color as I go.
Can you see it?
And actually, I think I will change over to a different color as I go, because that adds interest. I made it a little bit too dark though. You can always go back in and make sure the colors are similar to what you had before.
Want it dry a little bit lighter though? It'll dry a little bit lighter though, won't it?
It will. I mean, you can always go back, wait till it dries and do it again.
Good job, Bob. Look at those Bobs.
Whoa.
Wow. Nice.
Or definitely threw that one together. He is in a hurry.
Whoa.
He's a speed demon when it comes to paintbrush.
I know it.
Incredible. There's actually a little bit more pink in this background than what's actually seen, but you want these to stay in the background. So I might just keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
was supposed to be orange. Oh well. You can use the tips of your fingers to move things around if you don't want to use your brush. Okay, so basics of the mountain, basics of the faraway ones. See how I just have a really light color and a really blue color, and those are the two sides of the mountains. That's great for rocks. It's great for distant mountains to have a light side and a dark side. This is actually, this technique right here I used on the background for a painting of a horse. I think I showed some of you.
That's my favorite part, right in here.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
That
It's
is.
so simple. And now the turquoise stuff. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's see, maybe I'll do this one. I could do it all with one brush if I wanted to. So
I
now,
gotta go.
you gotta go? Okay,
Thank you very much.
see you around.
I'll consider mine a study and I'll come back. I changed the shadows from afternoon to morning,
Nice.
so I'll try doing that.
Let's see. There's the real turquoise popping up here.
This is a pretty color.
It is a very pretty color.
Reminds me of Barbara's house. It's got a lot of that color in it. What do you do?
It's more green. I don't really have a, there we go. There's a green spot. Ooh, look at that. Orange and turquoise. I made it green. See that? So you don't necessarily need yellow to make a green. So this one has...
You make it look so easy when it's not.
All I'm doing is putting blobs of color.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
What can you do the other side? Capture both sides, please.
So right now I'm doing more of an impressionist sort of thing. I'm not going for every single tree because it's more like a carpet than it is
Yeah.
up close trees. So I can get the green color and people will think, oh, it's a green, it's trees, so, or grass. So people will know what it is. And then you can always just kind of give some like kind of a feathered edge on the top. And then people will see it and then they'll think, oh, it's trees, you know? And then you can kind of make it jagged, some,
Plus it makes the mountain look large
yeah.
when you do the little jagged thing.
See that?
You know?
So I'm just doing, and I can kind of do some stippling over here, you know?
I like this part here.
Yeah.
I
That's
just
really
kind of
pretty
dabbed
too.
a few, made it look more real when she did that.
Oh, when she did the background, this was popped up. Like,
Because it goes back 10 years.
it's very pretty.
I'm still doing a lot of the stippling.
Well, they told me you can get it later, but you have to pay penalty.
Trying to get it so that, see,
And I thought, $10 a month or something like that, because for 10 years.
see if I can get that to be a little bit darker.
Why should you be paying? No, that's not.
What did you mix to make that darker?
It's not really darker, it's just this burnt orange mixed with the turquoise. You can also use this orange here, but you'll have to make it darker, so maybe adding some ultramarine blue would do the same effect. And there are plenty of trees on this thing too.
Very light.
Make it look not so intimidating.
Well, it's not supposed to be. And like watercolor, just it's bark and no bite. You know? It's like I am mean. I am so mean. Don't you dare try me. And then I'm like, oh well. I'll coax you with a candy bar. There's some greens here. Maybe I'll do more of the turquoise there. Kind of comes down a little bit. far.
Wow.
So whenever you're doubting your brush strokes and things, try looking at that from, more than 2 feet away, which is what you're normally painting at, 2 feet.
It's the blue tape, it's the blue tape.
Yes, it helps so much. But looking at it a little bit farther, like actually how you would at a gallery, usually it's like 5 feet or 6 feet. And then people come closer for the details. So,
Pretty.
Beautiful.
okay. Now there are some trees right back
And
here.
I love that teal color.
Isn't that nice? This
Oh.
this is phthalo turquoise.
It's very pretty.
The only turquoise I could find at the store at that time. I'm gonna mix that with this blue. Nice dark one. Yeah. There's a tree line right here. And then I'm gonna do that dabbling kind of edge there.
And the asking price is
For 8 by 10
for that.
for this painting?
Yes.
Do you want it?
No, but I want you to
Well,
sell
if it's
it in your
unframed-
gallery down in the valley.
If it's unframed, I'd probably go like $100. If
Good for
it's
you.
framed, it's usually 160.
Yeah, well, the frames are just crazy money.
Let's see. And you can always reference your picture if you want to get it closer.
So are you renting a place down in the valley?
Renting?
Yeah, or are you gonna stay at your mom's?
I actually have my parents. They're in South Scottsdale, and then I'll be there for 2.5 months for the celebration of fine art.
Fabulous.
And I need to actually order all of my supplies because they have a thing where it's free delivery from Home Depot. And I need to get my rail lights, so like gallery lighting, like that, so I can just slide it around. I need to get my paint, which I've decided will be a cotton something. It's an off-white, but not quite. It's like a little bit
Cotton
darker.
linen.
Yeah, it's like a cotton linen color.
Is that Bear paint?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't go wrong with it.
it's good.
Consumer Reports, top of the line, every time.
Just adding a little bit more dark in here. It's still wet, so I can do that. So at this point, it's just adding in some extra details.
What kind of brush is that?
This is a round, number 4 round, would be probably the closest option. I got it for $7 in Korea.
Is that a calligraphy?
I think it's supposed to be, but it's not really
Looks like.
pointed.
I know.
But it doesn't matter. It really works
Yeah,
great,
it's
and I love it. Also got the memories attached to it, and some memories of really good food. Absolutely loved it. And then if you kind of stipple it a little bit, sometimes you can have the brush tips kind of edge a little bit. It depends. You'll learn about your brushes as you go. Some of them will have wonderful fraying effects, and this one does that sometimes if I tap it. And that can help add those really tiny details that, like, you went in and you put every single dot, like, no, everything. I did something that frayed, and it looks like I have several dots. When
And
really I'm
that's the
just,
beauty of a good pen, a good
yeah.
paintbrush, it will come back to its nice when you dip it back in the water.
it's true.
Where a cheapy one, once you fray it out, it's frayed for life.
Oh, true, yeah. There are some like brush cleaners that will help it get back to its original glory, but if it's a really cheap brush, it probably won't go back. But, there's some professional artists that I actually know in person who have the crappy brushes because they do wonderful effects. And then they save their really nice brushes for like other things, like laying down the paint and all that.
They're your friends.
That's right.
Sometimes they're your frenemies.
That's true too. Yeah, so I guess I'm just kind of fiddling right now, but that's pretty much done. If you want to, you can go back in and add a few more tiny darks and stuff. Like if I wanted to, I could go back in and add a few more shadows with this purple. Has some really nice like details. Come back in.
Beautiful.
Sometimes the shadows are more like a different color.
Just to put those lines in there. This is 2 million years ago, this is 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty.
And really, I'm just scraping this across the top, and then it creates that line effect that I'm going for. I went over it a little bit, but that's okay. And then if it's not quite as bright as you want, you can always go back in and grab some of that really bright orange, and then you can add it back in to wherever you want them to really pay attention to. So this corner
Yeah.
might be a good spot, and right here would be a good spot. And if it's a little too stark, you can always go back in and tone it down a little bit. If I really wanted it to pop even more, I might go in with a cad yellow. One of the things that Rembrandt did with his portraits is that he would just have a tiny bit, maybe just a couple brush strokes of cad yellow in one spot. If cad yellow wouldn't appear anywhere else, and then that would be his focal point. So if I really want this right here to pop, then I'll put just a little bit of yellow, and then I wouldn't put it anywhere else. Might be a little too much. I think that's more like a lemon yellow. Oops. Oh well. Okay,
Thank you.
Nice,
Wow.
thank you.
there is
Pretty.
the quick demo.
Nice.
Wow, pretty,
Wow.
pretty.